But that's part of the self-awareness thing, right?
Mhm.
It's I mean, yeah, I've got a lot of friends that are just unhappy,
Mhm.
but they don't. And I've talked to them, and
Mhm.
they don't know why they're unhappy.
Yeah. And that's when you gotta go deep, and
You're
sometimes when
like,
you go deep, it makes you more unhappy, like, I feel like
you
I
can.
started, like, the journey, and then the journey took me way deep, and I got really depressed, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
But sometimes you need that to, like, really kick the bottom and get through the scars and then try and grapple your
I think
way
so.
up with an understanding of like, this made me very unhappy.
Hmm.
And if you can't name what would make you happy or content, then you'll never find it, you know? So
For
that's where
real.
I'm like, what makes me happy? Being outside in the backyard with my animals. Well, yesterday I didn't get to do that at all. So I was unhappy yesterday, and I'm like, Fiona, you got to like take the time to go out and
Yep.
talk to the chickens, you
Yep. You
know?
do. You do 100%.
Mhm.
And yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with all these people that are unhappy, but you can do that. I mean, you can look into yourself. And do you struggle with loneliness?
Yeah, I do, because my sort of like childhood mechanism of when I was upset was to retreat because my parents were just not available. Because
Yeah.
usually I was upset because my parents had done something.
Yeah.
And so if my mom yelled at me and then she was like, "Oh, come here, let me give you a hug," I was like, "No." So I didn't learn like good coping mechanisms.
Hmm.
And so a lot of what I've worked through in the past couple of years in my personal therapy and in couples therapy is that when I'm feeling down, I need to reach out. And the thing is, me and my husband are the same in that way. When we're feeling down, we just isolate
Yeah.
because you are attracted to the person who's just like you. You're like, I'm not going to marry someone who's like my dad. And then like 10 years later,
Yeah.
you're
You're
like,
like,
oh my God,
you're my dad.
I know. You're like, I just did the same patterns. And so part of like you growing, you actually have to get your life partner to kind
Yeah.
of get on board as well. And so
Oh, right. They have to grow too.
so the biggest loneliness for me is like being in a house with someone and feeling alone.
Hmm.
That's like really, I would rather be by myself and be like, okay, I'm physically
Yeah.
alone.
Yep.
And so yeah, and so it's hard because you feel like, for me, I can feel like the down times might be a burden on someone. Again, making assumptions, right? Um, but
If they love you, they're there to help you,
yeah,
and you have to
hopefully.
let them.
And you have to tell them that you need help.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is we're like assuming that they know you need help and they might
Oh,
not.
my wife's great. She's always there, but it's always like, I'm like, I'm falling apart,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, why didn't you say something a fucking month ago?
Yes. Yeah, because you always think, "I'll get through it. This is
Yeah,
just a
would have been a
boop."
lot easier. Now we
Yeah.
have a bunch of shit to deal with. Way
Yeah.
to go, dude.
So, I mean, both me and my husband are trying to be more open
That's
and
cool.
like, walk that path. And I mean, we certainly have the tests. Like, I felt very lonely. Something that made me, I think, go into depression was when I had to have one of my dogs put down in
Mm.
October 2020. And when me and my husband first got together, I had my dog and he had his dog. Now, of course, as a family, I feel like they're our dogs, but he very much was like, "That's your dog. That's your decision." And so I felt utterly
Mm.
alone. And I did. For me, I was still in that stage of like, I'm depressed. I'm just going to bed. And it was
Yeah.
just a bad spiral. Well, now we still have his dog, who's
Mm.
our dog, but she's 18 and she had a cardiac event on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to walk that path of like, can we talk about it? Can we have a hug? Can we cry about
Yeah.
it? So
Mm.
it's cool to talk about it, but walking it is a whole different thing. And you have to be super self-aware and be like, okay, my comfort zone is to not talk about this, but
Yeah.
that's not served me well. So
Right.
let's try and like breach the subject so that
Yeah.
we're not going through this alone because there's no reason to go through that alone. You're together and it
Or
is
just
very
like
hard.
create an argument for the sake of whatever.
Yeah.